Okay, let's go.
Hello there, Chick Chatters. We're back with Teen Mom, episode 7. This episode, we're going to start with Brianna, and she is kind of feeling the wrath of her mom being in rehab. She is having issues getting her girls to school. Devoin is not being the most helpful. He's helping. He's going and picking up the girls when he can. Devoin works a regular job, I think, and he doesn't get as much money from the show. And I'd like to see him on the show more. I wish they would do being Devoin or something, throw him a little money that way. Because I'd like to see what the hell he
or
does.
the same way that they have Gary, just feature him a little bit more.
Because I'd love to see what the hell he does day to day. At least fill in some gaps for me. Because sometimes I feel like he's doing all he can, and then Brianna will talk, and I'm like, is he doing all he can? Like, I don't know. There's basically an issue with the girls getting to and from school. Apparently, now that Brianna has moved, she moved really far away from her kids' school, which I feel like she should have took that into consideration when she was buying a house. How far?
Even if Roxanne is around, Roxanne still lives at their other house that they lived in before. So Roxanne's still driving hours every day. I get that she was there to help, but that's still a lot to put on somebody.
I'm guessing then that the kids were staying at her house overnight sometimes for school. Because why else? I don't know. Either way, it's neither here nor there. But now with Roxanne out of the mix, Brianna and Devoin are trying to figure out if the girls should go on the school bus. That was something that Devoin recommended, which at first Brianna seemed like no when she was talking to us about it, but I'm like, it's so normal for kids to just hop on a school bus these days. I mean, I don't think it's like the worst thing he could ask. I didn't know he had to pay for it. He's like, I'll pay for them.
So I don't know if they go to a private school or if they were talking about using private transportation, because when they brought it up to Nova and Stella, she said she didn't want to ride the bus, that it was hot and crowded. And then Bree was like, oh, well, it would be private transportation. So it would be like a private bus. And so I don't know if they're willing to pay somebody to privately transport them and they're just calling it the bus, or if they go to a private school. And so it's just not the typical school bus that they're thinking of. I don't really know. None of that was very clear.
I feel like now it's probably like dial-a-ride, because we used to do that with my brother all the time, and a bus would come and pick him up and then take him wherever, because it would be like 40 minutes away, and sometimes my parents couldn't take him to school and stuff like that, so we would use dial-a-ride, and you do have to pay for that. And honestly, the way school buses usually work is they only stay in the district, so I don't see a school bus going in 40 minutes, 30 minutes out to drop a kid off in a whole different district. I feel like this is something Brianna should have probably thought about when she moved. She should either switch some schools or maybe like...
It's not the worst thing in the world to change your kid's school in the middle of the school year. They're not going to fail because of it. A lot of times the school will do the best they can to get them transitioned. I mean, in elementary school, unless there's a major problem, they're kind of just shuffling upwards anyways. So
I remember when I was in first or second grade, she used to be one of my best friends, and she ended up transferring in the middle of the school year, and she was like super short, and I was like, oh my god, someone that's just shorter than me. So I was always picked on. So it's not like a bad thing to switch in the middle of the school year. Kids will recover, kids are resilient, and they'll make friends.
Turns out they both want to go to a different school because they do end up considering that option. Seems like Nova and Stella are not willing to even consider the bus, even if it's private, no matter what it is. That was a big no for them. And so Bree's like, I don't know what else to do. He's like, do you guys want to go to a different school? And they were both okay with that. So they do end up going to tour this new school, and they all end up loving it. So
absolutely loving it.
Makes me more confused as to why didn't you tour this school maybe in the first place and see if it was even worth going to and starting them at the beginning of the year, or just starting them right away.
I think Roxanne was just offering to be such a lackey that she probably didn't even have to think about it. You know,
that's
like
probably true.
Roxanne was probably just doing the absolute most because them are her kids. So
probably so true. And you're right. I bet they were probably staying the night still at Roxanne's.
Probably be closer to school. It only would make sense. I'm not going to drive, 40 minutes or so every day to get you to school or whatever. But
and then again, at the end of the day,
I don't know. It just seems like a lot. But now this new school is only 12 minutes away. I thought it was funny. So during this guy's trip, they were talking to Devoin at some point about the girls or whatever, him stepping up for Stella. And I thought it was hilarious how he's like, I am their ride to school. Like, we just heard you guys talking, and you said you'll do it when you can.
Yeah, you literally said you'd be homeless if you were their ride to school. And so you're not. Because you're not homeless.
Yeah, stop putting on for these guys. They're gonna watch the same damn episode and see you literally saying, I can do it sometimes and I can do it when I can, which is fairly reasonable. But it is also your responsibility. It can't just be on Brianna. Like she said, what I'm supposed to leave every time something happens, it feels like that's expected of me.
Right.
And it's not so much as expected of Devoin. And it's like, Devoin, at this point, you've been on TV for how many years? You can't get your finances together. I know you got a gambling problem, but maybe you should stop buying the designer outfits and stuff that you wear. Maybe you should start prioritizing money in other spots.
I almost feel like, though, on the flip side of that, if anything, at least when he's buying this designer stuff, he's investing his money in something. He could always sell a shirt, but he's out there gambling. His money's just gone forever. Poof.
That's true.
I'm not advocating for that.
If you see Devoin's Instagram, he'd be having money.
He'd have money in the back seat of his car if he became homeless. He's not going to sell it.
No, he's keeping his nice stuff. But it is admirable that he takes on Stella so much. I think another point in this episode is that Stella is not comfortable around Lewis. Brianna decides to ask these kids if there's anybody that they don't want picking them up. And it's like, of everybody they know, Brittany, Roxanne, you, Devoin, do you really think they're going to say anybody but Lewis?
It's such a weird question. I guess it's an opportunity for a kid to disclose there's somebody or something going on they don't like, but there's much other better opportunities for that. So to just be like, yeah, who do you not want to pick you up? That's not an option right now. Let's just not go there. These are the 4 people allowed to pick you up. If anyone else picks you up, tell the teacher, or the teacher should know, or whatever.
Right. Unless she's wondering about maybe Roxanne and her state while she's dropping these kids on and off. But like, she's been doing this like for the last 10 years or so. It's not, it can't be her.
It seems like she's protecting the kids from really being aware of exactly what's going on. They know, I think, that she's somewhere taking care of herself. I don't remember what she said.
I don't know. I just felt strange. Like she was fishing for that Lewis answer.
It's been coming up a lot. The whole episode, even before this, she had to remind Stella that that's your real dad, because Stella, I think, wants to convince herself that Devoin is her dad. And Bree was telling each of them how she met their dads.
Yeah.
And Stella's like, well, that's not my real dad. And Bree's like, yes, Lewis is your real dad. She has to remind her. And I kind of laugh just because it's sort of funny, but it's actually heartbreaking.
It really is. She's like, well, I met your dad in high school talking to Nova. And then Stella was like, you met my dad in high school? And then she's like, no, I met your dad at the club.
Yeah, she started twerking. She said I was doing this.
I'm like, girl, how old is this child?
She knew what the club was.
She knew about the club. She was like, the club?
She said, did he call you out? So she knows about the DJs there. What is she watching on YouTube?
What's going on here? She hung out with Lewis once?
Right.
Something? Did she go to work with Lewis one day?
Take your kid to work day, yeah.
I highly doubt it. That man doesn't come around for nothing.
No, he sure does not.
Guys give Devoin a lot of credit for stepping in, stepping up, and he says it just comes natural. And I think Devoin explained this before, that when it came to his own family, I believe his father or maybe his stepfather would accept all of the kids as their own. So he's just used to that. So it wouldn't feel right to him. And he says, I don't really get one-on-one time with Nova because I can't really pick up Nova without Stella. They're kind of a package deal. And I see what Lewis is doing. Like, her dad is around, but he's not around. He's there, but he's not there. And I think Devoin's doing a really good job of stepping in, but also considering Lewis in a way. Yeah. He let Lewis show up to that father-daughter dance and everything. And he also handed his phone over to Nova when things were getting weird.
Yeah. And that's what he should be doing. He should be making sure that the girls feel safe all the time, and especially when he's around. And I think if Nova needs to talk to somebody, he should facilitate that, especially if it's somebody acting strange around them. But at the same time, Devoin has been in the situation where he's been blocked out of his kid's life. So I don't think he's ever going to do that to Lewis, no matter how stupid Lewis is.
I think he and everybody else hopes that Lewis will one day come to. But the sad thing is usually, even you see this with Amber too, it gets to a point where the kids are too old and the damage is already too much done.
Like, Devoin was this close to that being his relationship. Probably if he wouldn't have been more present within a year, he probably would have had the same exact situation play out with Nova and Stella. And so he was really lucky, I think, to be able to find a way to be around Bree in the right enough amount of time for all of them to feel comfortable around him. I don't think Stella will ever feel comfortable around Lewis because they're never going to have those intimate moments you have when you're a child, that this person took care of me, not just tolerates me being around and we have a fun time.
That's what Devoin really is to her, more or less. And that year he moved in with Brianna or whatever, that might have helped too with the whole Nova situation. Because sometimes when people can't get along, like Devoin and Brianna just were not getting along. A lot of times kids suffer in that situation because the dad's not going to come around if there's always going to be contention. And then he's always going to blame it on you. And then it's just a cycle. It's just always going to be going. Like, he thinks it's your fault. You think it's his fault. And who wins in that situation? So I'm glad that her and Devoin can actually talk now. And even with this whole bus thing, they had a mature conversation about it. I mean, no one was
She was
yelling
like looking up to him all dreamy-eyed when he's talking about the bus. I was like, okay, Bree, damn. Looking like you're looking at your husband or something.
She might be. I don't know. I think he's back with that other girl. I don't even think he actually fully broke up with her, but you know, whatever.
So we find the most heartbreaking note that Stella wrote at the end of the night. It looks like she wrote basically that she doesn't like her dad and doesn't like that he doesn't show up. It was pretty clear that that's what she wrote.
Right. And it's sad. And it's one of those things where it's like, what do? Do you try to force Lewis to come around, or do you just kind of let this play out? Because if she's already not comfortable, she don't even really want him around. She don't want him to come pick her up. How open is she going to be to when he does come around? So it's like, you don't want to traumatize your child by making her hang out with a stranger. Because look at what happened the last time. He took her to that daughter dance, and he was so weird. And I don't know. That man should not be having kids, honestly, at all.
Bree struggles with her own rejection still from her own father. And so I think it probably is really challenging for her to even understand what to do. It's hard for you and I on the outside to think of a good solution. So I can't imagine what it's like for her because she's going through the same thing herself. And then watching her daughter go through it, all the guilt she probably feels, which she doesn't need to feel.
Stella's just probably going to end up in therapy in a couple years or so. I don't know how helpful it would be for her right now. Maybe it would be. I don't know. But
I don't even know if Devoin stays doing Devoin what he's doing right now and continuously improves what he has been doing. I don't even know if Stella's going to need therapy. She has a great dad in Devoin. Stella don't want her dad. Makes it clear. Just because he's not around doesn't mean it's going to automatically be traumatizing, especially if she has Devoin around and she has 3 aunts who are basically moms. She's well loved. She knows that. That's why she doesn't want her dad around. She's like, that guy's weird. You guys are cool.
He is weird.
She says that all the time to Nova. She's like, your dad's cool.
Yeah, your dad's not weird. Devoin really did not have to do that. I mean, him and Brianna were well broken up by the time Stella came around, you know. Him and Brianna didn't even have a good relationship. And half the time they don't. Half the time they don't get along. I mean, they do a lot more now. I think Brianna seeing him accept Stella so much like his own has really softened her to Devoin. It would probably make me soft to Devoin too. I'm actually surprised that this girlfriend is so cool with it too. I mean, like, she must be a saint as well. She must be like like a black Christina.
Yeah, she probably is. Just exactly the same.
I wish we could ever see her.
We've seen her a few times, but she's usually just kind of communicating with Devoin. We don't really hear anything about who she is, which is sad.
I know. I kind of want to see her. We see everybody else, but anyways, moving on. We go over to Cheyenne, and the first thing that happens is that Corey and Taylor are moving closer. They're going to be about 5 minutes away, apparently. And Ryder thinks that that's walking distance, but I think it means 5 minutes by car, which might be like a 15, 20-minute walk, but she's a little too young for that.
It's still probably pretty nice, though, to have them
in the area. But that's when Corey brings up this whole guy's trip and that he wants to plan a trip. At some point when he's on this guy's trip, Cheyenne calls Zach about an issue with Ryder. And apparently Ryder was playing somewhere. They were at some kind of public area.
Like an indoor park, she said.
Yeah. And a kid that they only said wasn't black, which I'm assuming was white, came up to her and called her a derogatory name. Obviously, we can all figure out what that was. And she was shook by it. And honestly, if that was her first experience, every kid is so shook by that first experience. When you have that happen. I remember my first time when I realized, because all my cousins that are my age are mixed. So all my cousins that I grew up with, we all look different, like really different from each other. But I grew up with a lot of half black cousins. And I remember the day that I figured out that we weren't the same skin color. And it was because one day my cousin Anthony, who is black, he was kind of getting into a tiff with my other white cousin. And kids from across the street, grown 20-year-old, like at least maybe late teens, were screaming, "Get this N-word, get that N-word," like screaming it at my white cousin. I just remember the feeling of something is wrong, but I didn't know what it was. Because mind you, I was probably like 9 years old, 9 or 10. I just remember my little cousin Haley, who's also mixed, was sitting next to me, and I looked at, I believe it was Andrea, one of my other cousins at the time, and I said, just get her out of here. And I was just trying to like figure out what was going on. And the next day, my Aunt Mona kind of explained it all to us. Because when Anthony came home, he said, people hate me because of the color of my skin. And that was just so heartbreaking. She went over to that neighbor's house and like cussed them out. But the sad thing is that it does happen, and it's probably going to happen to her again. And it's so crappy. Corey was right. It's going to probably happen again. It's just how they're going to attack it and how they're going to explain it to her and how to explain how to stand up for herself, because you're well in your right to stand up for yourself when people say that kind of stuff. I think it was disgusting. I think that it was nice that that other parent made their child apologize, but it makes me wonder, like, children
They
don't
learned it from
children don't
parent.
just like say these things. They learned it from somewhere. So
Yeah, they learned it from their parent. You can apologize, but the damage is already done. Teaching accountability is important, because whether you say those things or not, if you get caught saying them, you should be accountable for saying them. And that whole family is lucky. And the situation with your aunt going over there and yelling at them, they're all lucky that's all they got was to have to apologize, or that they got yelled at. You should not treat people like that at all. So
that's why violence and all that stuff happens. I hope that one day Ryder and other kids won't have to go through that. I hope people become more empathetic and aware of these things and can, kind of get a brain that just because of your skin tone does not mean that you are less of a person. It's literally just based off of where you originate from in the world and where the sun hits and melatonin. It has nothing else other than that. It's not some deep, deep, deep thing like people keep pushing and thinking. Yes, there's cultural differences and stuff like that. But we're all humans. We all bleed the same color. We all look the same way on the inside out. If you were to flip us all around, we all have the same organs. At this point, you should be evolved enough to kind of start cutting some of that shit out. But sadly, that's just kind of the world we're living in. And I felt really bad for Ryder because she's such a sweet girl, and it just sucks. She really is. And she's so smart. She's so sweet. I'm sure she was just trying to play with that kid and have a good time. It's crappy.
It made me really sad to hear. And Cheyenne was really upset, understandably. And I think it was good for both the guys to be there on the phone too and just say, we'll figure out a way to address this with them when we all get back together. And it's important for all the adults in the room to talk about that, because it is a stupid, unfortunate reality. So it's something that they all need to sit down and talk about, unfortunately.
I'm sure it's something that they've all been through. I mean, obviously, Corey and Cheyenne have been through it. I'm sure Zach has too. They have experience in that way, and I think it's a good way they can all come together and figure out a way to age appropriately explain some things to her.
Yeah.
I thought it was freaking adorable that when she called Zach to talk about this, the moment she said that there was an issue with Ryder, he's like, oh, let me go get Corey.
He was been waiting for that moment his whole life. Like, I'm with Corey.
Let me go get Corey. It was such amazing co-parenting. Like, these people have the best co-parenting relationship. I mean, just the fact that these guys are on a damn trip together in general. And remember season 1 of Cheyenne even being on there? Like, tension between Zach and Corey all the time. Corey wanted to be with Cheyenne. It seemed like Zach wanted to be with Cheyenne. And it was just a huge mess. And now it's just so nice to see them all beautifully come together. Taylor, Corey, Zach, Cheyenne, all of these people have had tension with each other at some point, but it's just great to see them come together as one unit and be able to really parent these kids. I think they're doing an amazing job. I think Corey had a hiccup that one episode with the not telling Cheyenne some stuff, but other than that, I think for the most part they communicate really well.
They do. I thought it was so funny when Corey decided that he wanted to plan this boys trip. He took over the video chat. The girls have, and all the boys started popping up. And I was like, okay, this is going to be fun.
I wish they would do this more with the guys because they're honestly pretty funny.
Right before the boys trip, we do pop over to Gary's house briefly. And he is talking to Christina about going on this trip, but they start to talk about Amber. They're both just kind of talking about, has Leah talked to Amber? We don't really know. Gary tells Christina that he has been reaching out, asking, please text Leah, a text message, a call, something, a carrier pigeon. He's basically begging this woman to reach out to her daughter. She sends this long message. I took a picture of it.
Read it.
I can't get the exact words because it was weird. Oh. I have texted and called Leah a million times. No answer. Nothing ever back. I've done everything to be in her life, and I've gotten SHIT'd whatever that. I never get to spend time with her. I'm excluded from all her schooling and cross country still. Explanation point. I'm tired of being unhappy and fighting for attention from everyone. You would think I used to beat the living shit out of her how I am excluded from her life. All I've done is beg for time and gotten spit in the face. I'm not a horrible person and I'm a loving mother. I refuse to live a miserable life anymore. I've been here and I hear absolutely nothing except a Merry Christmas.
This freaking woman. Does she not realize that, like, school sports, she could be looking up this information when her meets are?
Maybe Leah has purposely excluded her, but it also sounds like in the boys' trip that Leah is open to Amber being around. So it doesn't sound like she's being shunned by Leah in these things.
Is that Gary's wishful thinking that Leah wants her around? Because every time he seems to ask Leah about
Maybe.
it, she's like, well, I don't want that girl around, whatever, but do we have to, kind of thing. So I don't know. She might be feeling excluded, but whose fault is that? For real. You live 20 minutes away from your kid. Just pop in. You're like, hey, what's up? They'll let you in. They'll let you have dinner with them. There's no contention really
Gary's
between you
begging.
and Gary.
Yeah.
He's begging, and it's sad.
Crazy because Amber's over here sending actual messages. I've been begging to be around and for attention and blah, 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 blah. But Gary is the one begging, point blank period, to just be around and have a relationship. There's no way that both of them are saying that they're begging and there's no relationship happening. I'm sorry, Amber, but you're living in La La Land.
She's probably not even answering the phone at the time. She's so out of touch. And it's scary.
It's clear that she's angry with Leah. The last 3 or 4 episodes, she's been mad at Leah. Well, she's not around and she lives down the street. She didn't let Leah see her brother the only time her brother comes to visit for like 3 to 6 months. It's crazy. Her birthday, she treated her like absolute garbage. Yelled at her because she wasn't interested in her boyfriend. She's mad at Leah for not being interested in her boyfriend, just like a weird older sister would be.
She is just like a weird older sister to Leah, or maybe like a stepsister at this point. Definitely like a distantly related cousin. I don't know. That poor girl. I don't blame her for wanting Christina to adopt her if that is the case.
The boys' trip starts. Anne and I are from Michigan, so I thought it was really cool that they are going to Michigan. Got me really excited. So they're going to Devoin Mountain, which is a pretty popular ski resort here in Michigan, and pretty much all show up with a bunch of beer and pizza, just like Taylor thought that they would. So it's happening.
I thought it was hilarious that Tyler didn't even really have to go nowhere. Corey's like, I'm going to take you all to where I'm from in Michigan. And Tyler was all excited. And I'm like, Tyler, you're already in Michigan.
I know. And then he was the first one to leave.
Well, because he could just drive up the street, go home. I mean, it's not that far from him.
He doesn't have to wait for a flight or anything. Right.
Yeah, it's a couple hours probably drive for him to go home. I mean, screw it. But it's just so funny. I'm like, well, Tyler, you didn't have to go far.
Yep, he really scored on that trip. So,
and we've all been to Devoin Mountain if you're from Michigan, pretty much. Like, if you're from the bottom half of Michigan, like, we've all been there because we've all been on skis.
I don't ski. I have not been on skis or on that hill whatsoever. I've only been in the lounge.
Oh, really? I remember our school used to make us go, and I wasn't really that great of a skier, so I only really did the skiing part once. But then the next time we went, I spent a lot of day in the lounge the second day that I went. I don't have great hand-eye coordination, so I'd be tumbling down them hills. It's not a good idea. I'm gonna get eaten by a bear. Yeah, they're at this guy's trip, and they're kind of going around talking about, I guess, just life. Gary offers up all this information about Leah and about Amber and how he's just struggling with this relationship. And Corey even says, stop giving her so much credit and like stop trying so hard to facilitate that relationship, because if she's not trying for it, basically, what's the point? Why keep it going? If she's got a stable mother in Christina, which it's not going to ever fill the void of Amber totally. She will always have that, like, my mom is just, some ain't right about her. And she might even also wonder, like, is there going to be something wrong with me or my kids because how my mom is?
And Amber's instilling that into her brain. You're at the age where I got crazy. You're going to need me now. No, I wouldn't touch that woman with a 10-foot pole if I started noticing mental health issues.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stay away from me with your tainted brain. I'm going to find real coping skills. Be nice to people.
Right. Thank goodness for Christina. I think Corey called her a saint that came down and
A little angel Christina. And that's when Gary decides to take it upon himself to let everyone in that room know before he let Amber know that Leah would like to be adopted by this woman, Christina, because she is such a saint and magical woman.
And I'm not sure if this was like an actual plan or if this was just him saying like this is what she wants. But the guys seem pretty shook by that. They're like, oh wow, does she know? And he told everybody Amber doesn't know. Yep. What does our man Tyler do? He decides to go call Caitlin. He runs right upstairs after being the most vocal about it. He was the most vocal downstairs, being like, screw Amber, basically. Yeah. Tyler has been around Amber for the last 15-ish years, so he knows her pretty well. And I mean, Caitlin and Amber are friends. Macy and Amber are friends. They're all friendly. So it's just kind of interesting to see Tyler giving his honest opinion. I think all those people who've known them for that long are in such a weird spot because they obviously see how Amber is treating her kid, but they also want to like her for some reason. And
I mean, they have to work with her. Yeah,
but she has nothing to offer. Even when she's around them, she's like the most miserable person in the room. She's always complaining about like anxiety. I don't want to be around people.
She has so much drama that she sucks everyone else's energy.
Remember that one time they went on a girls' trip together not that long ago, maybe like a few seasons ago, and Amber wouldn't do much of nothing. She was just kind of like, I don't want to be around people. I get anxiety. It's like you're on a trip. Just enjoy your damn self. Cheese and rice. This woman can't even enjoy herself for a moment. And she spends all this time alone and doing her own thing. She ain't got no kids to worry about. Why can't you enjoy yourself?
She talks about how much she goes to therapy. This woman is on a bucket of medications. I'm sure of it. You're telling me that you can't suck it up for a day or two and
enjoy yourself for the sake of everybody that's there. Come on. I don't know. Just don't even go then. That's why she don't even come to those things no more, I think. It's just because she's just an energy sucker. I don't even know if MTV even invites her anymore. What's the point?
That's true.
They'll probably blame it on her probation or whatever's going on with her. Right. So Tyler runs up and tells Caitlin.
She's mad.
She was mad that Amber doesn't know and Gary's talking about it. But here's the thing is that Gary was just talking to the guys. He wasn't really like, oh, this is going to happen. There's no real set in motion, anything. I think he was just venting his frustrations and giving them that little bit of information. Now, I don't blame Tyler really for going up and telling Kate about it. I mean, maybe not in that exact moment. He probably could have waited till after the trip was over. But he
started that game of telephone right away.
He was excited. Yeah, he went upstairs, told his wife. And the thing is that they are one. Then there's so much one. They're more one than the normal married couple. If you got Tyler over, you probably basically have Caitlin over. I mean, this woman even handles his OnlyFans. So he ain't hiding nothing from her. He told her right out the gate. But I think Caitlin made a misstep when she called Macy because she knew that Amber didn't know.
I know, but it's at the same time.
Girls gossip. I mean, like, it's hard
to keep that. That's what I mean.
I
feel at this point, it was male gossip, and then Tyler had the hot tea. He had to spill the tea. Kate's going to have to spill the same tea to the same group. And who else is she going to talk to about it? It has to be Macy or one of them. I don't know. I feel like it also was sort of probably producer-driven because obviously Macy ends up mic'd up. Macy's not even really in this episode. She has no storyline in this episode, but she does end up mic'd up on her way to the grocery store or picking up her kids or somewhere and ends up on the phone with Caitlin who wants to spill the tea. So I feel like the producers may have sort of pushed this narrative as well. As soon as it came out, they're like, oh, we have to jump on this because this is our season here. So I don't know. Amber doesn't know, obviously, and Kate and Macy are both pretty upset that that's what the whole general conversation seems to be going on over there.
I think what's interesting about that is Macy and Caitlin asked the same question when Caitlin's talking to Tyler and when Macy's talking to Caitlin. They ask, well, has she been talking to Leah? And it's like, would you have to ask any other mother if they're talking to their child in this show especially? Do you even think that that's a question for anybody else? And then y'all wonder why Leah might want to be adopted and y'all want to be mad that Gary didn't tell Amber yet. Do you guys realize who Amber is? That man is probably saving her for last if this is a real thing.
I think Macy has a good idea of that too, because Ryan's been in a position like that where he's not talking to his child and there's not a good relationship going on. So I would think that Macy would know if Leah wants to get adopted, she's probably not talking to her mother right now.
Ryan's family was still involved, even when Ryan wasn't. I don't see Amber's mom Tanya coming over making any steps either.
No, that's very true. Yeah. Macy and Kate end up talking about their position because everybody at this point is talking about the hot goss. And Amber still has no idea what's going on. So they're talking about, are we good or bad friends, pretty much, if we tell her or don't tell her. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I feel like that's something that Amber needs to learn from Gary. But
Yeah,
if you know this information and Amber comes to tell you, you're going to have to just lie to her face and be like, oh, wow, that's shocking. I had no idea. Or you're going to have to tell her.
To be honest, I assume that they told her, but you know what? I just feel like it's not their place. I feel like that's Gary's place. And he didn't say it was for sure going to happen. Something got lost in translation with all this telephone.
I think
this
so.
whole telephone game that they were doing. But we got to remember, there is no right answer with Amber. You can't do the right thing with Amber. Even when you think you're doing the right thing with Amber, you're not. Gary thinks he's doing the right thing by trying to facilitate this relationship all the time, and it's not the right thing. Look, all he did was ask her to text her damn daughter, and he got a damn paragraph back. Imagine when he tells her, oh, Amber's thinking about being adopted by Christina. You don't think that woman's going to come to his house with her machete? You know she still got
That's why Gary just needs to stop trying to do right by Amber and just focus on doing right by Leah, because he's a great dad. He knows what Leah wants. Leah has no problem telling Gary how he feels, and yet Gary still tries to do right by Amber and cover her ass. Stop that. Spend your energy supporting what your child wants, and that situation's gonna have to work itself out. It has nothing to do with him anyways.
And it doesn't matter. He's damned if he did, damned if he didn't. If you don't facilitate the relationship, Amber's going to be like, well, it's Gary's keeping her from me. It's Gary's fault. But even with you trying to facilitate this relationship, she's still blaming you. She's still blaming Leah. She's blaming everybody but her damn self.
I mean, think of Leah's birthday. Gary basically forced Amber onto Leah, as he has for Leah's birthday for the last 3 years. And then Amber walks in there and treats her like garbage. Why would he keep doing that? Why would he keep subjecting his daughter to somebody who treats her like crap and then turns around, abandons her, doesn't talk to her for weeks, and then blames it on her when she doesn't answer 3 phone calls in a row and texts her Merry Christmas? What kind of mom doesn't show up on Christmas morning and has to get a text from their child? We are complaining about a text about Merry Christmas. You should be with your kid.
Exactly. What do you got going on for Christmas? Your other kid's in damn California. You're just sitting at the house.
Why aren't you at the freaking porch or doorstep at 6 o'clock in the morning ready to watch your kid open? You know Gary and Christina would allow it. They're going to make you hot cocoa. We're all going to have breakfast together. They have no problem with it.
I think it was Corey or something asked if the relationship is salvageable, and Gary says he thinks that it is, which it probably kind of is, but it'll never be the same. Like you said about Stella and stuff, there's moments that when you're growing up with your parent, you get that security.
You just have a bond in that way.
With Leah, that train has already sailed. That's been way, way, way gone. And that damage is done. I mean, they could probably have a friendly relationship, a civil relationship, but Leah's always going to carry that with her. I think Christina does a great job of filling that void for her, but I don't think she can totally fill it. But I think Christina has done an amazing job. I think if Leah wants to be adopted by her, more power to her. Amber ain't doing nothing for you. Probably the best part of that whole relationship is the child support. This woman is so negative, and everything is everyone else's fault but her own. There's just no accountability there. She wants to blame everything on her mental illness. And I mean, she has mental illness. That's fine. But maybe stop procreating. Maybe get some really good therapy and stop going to this damn
child psychologist. She goes to a child psychologist for her individual therapy, her couples therapy, her family therapy. This one therapist is carrying too many hats, but it's for another conversation. So we see these men getting on snow bikes. I've never seen those things in my life. Have you?
I don't know what the hell they were.
Bikes with handles and 2 skis on the back and 1 ski in the front, like a tricycle with skis. That's what these men were on for the first day. It was really bizarre. I've never seen anything like it. Everyone was going super duper fast, and it looked like everyone was having a whole bunch of fun. And then poor Gary, I was surprised Gary got himself up there, but poor Gary toppled right over like Humpty Dumpty, and then Devoin smashed right into him and barely even got up. He got up, he grabbed his leg for a minute, he went back down, and then they gave us the commercial break thinking that Devoin was going to be hurt. But
and then this man decides to play a prank on Brianna by telling Jade that Devoin had to be airlifted. And I freaking cackled when Devoin said she ain't gonna care.
She didn't call.
She didn't call at all. I'm sure Jade called her freaking out. And Brianna was probably at that point like, oh, I gotta get someone else to pick up Nova on Wednesday.
I was thinking that, yeah. It's the only thing she really cared about. But he does end up calling Jade and tells her that it was all a joke, and then Jade's like, "Oh my god, now I'm gonna have to call everybody back."
That's how fast this shit moves. They probably have their own little damn group chat already going about it.
I wouldn't be surprised if Amber already knew at this point about the whole plot for Christina to take her child.
I think that's coming up for sure. I think that's why they're showing us Macy and Caitlin and getting involved already, because they're already setting up for when Amber finds out there's someone else, and then she's going to blow up on Gary. She's going to blow up on Christina. She's going to probably come to that house and take them all out.
She probably is, with her machete and everything.
Poor little Emily. I hope she can get out of there in time.
Emily's going to be traumatized by this woman.
She probably already is. All the things
I know, just by purely being exposed to her.
I honestly think that there's nothing Amber can really do at this point. I mean, she can be as mad as she wants about, Leah don't want to spend time with me. Leah don't want to do this. Leah don't want to do that. But it's no one's fault but your own. You have not raised this girl at all since she was, 10 months old, or maybe 2 years tops.
Yeah.
And when you had random dudes changing her diaper. I wouldn't trust your ass either.
No, I would never. I feel like there's that bond that we're talking about. Like, you don't get that when you feel unsafe around your parent. You feel unsafe forever. I could never see Leah ever trusting Amber, especially not when she is young. Maybe as an adult, they can develop a trusting relationship emotionally, but not in a security way, like a parent-child relationship. Like, I can take care of you and you trust me to take care of you. That would
require Amber to have taken some accountability, and I don't see that for her. You can't even ask this girl to text her daughter without her giving you a damn paragraph and a half about why she shouldn't.
The way that she says, you would think I used to beat this girl. It's like, emotionally.
You beat her father. You beat every other guy around.
In front of her when she was a baby. Yeah.
I'm not surprised if you did beat her. Like, what do you mean? You did beat her, like you said, emotionally. But we're talking about Amber Machete Portwood? Come on. Don't be coming out saying you think I beat her. Is that the first thing on your mind, Amber? I don't think many people would just go right there.
Amber would.
She don't realize that emotional trauma is still trauma, but she should, because she's always talking about her own. But
she has half a psychology degree, I thought. I mean, she should have gotten that far.
If it's not about her and if it's not about a boyfriend, then Amber don't care about it. Amber's just gonna only be up for 3 hours of the day in the middle of the night. Remember when they would say about how they would show up to Amber's house at like 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. with Leah and have to throw rocks at her windows to wake her up?
Yeah, that's just crazy. I don't care if you don't have kids and maybe your schedule's a little flexible and you can take a nap whenever you want, but that's just bizarre to be sleeping all the time like that. You're on or you have a problem, whether it's mental or whatever.
Amber's like the equivalent of like a raging hormonal teenage girl on her period during summer break. Wants to sleep until 3 p.m., be up to 4 a.m. And it's like, girl, you got to grow up some point. Like, you are literally like 30-some years old.
Gotta be, accountability. Leah's more mature than she is. That's pretty much the boys' trip. Gary looks like he's been chuffing it up the whole time, so he makes some different breakfasts and some dinners and burgers, all kinds of different stuff for them. And then they have a tube day, but that's about it. I was happy to see them have part of an episode, but I mean, this could have gone on for a couple days for me. I could have watched this even more.
What's funny is when Christina was talking to Gary and they were talking about how the last time they went on a guy's trip was a while ago. I think the last time they went on a guy's trip was when Ryan went. And this was probably 8 years ago or so. Vaguely, I remember.
Yeah, that premiered when I was at CMU because, you know, the girls in the dorm watched it together. It was a big deal.
Because Ryan was there.
Yeah.
I don't know why Ryan wasn't invited to this guy's trip.
I think that was back when they were actually doing all those specials too, being whoever's.
I wish they would do a being Ryan and a being Devoin. I just want to see what these people are doing. Like, Ryan will never do it, but I just would love to see it. Yeah. But all right, Chick Chat.
So it looks like our next episode, we're going to hear some more about what happened with Ryder. Sean is going to be looking for a job, so I guess we'll get some more clarity on what exactly kind of job they're talking about. Who knows? Yeah. Jeremy apparently doesn't want Addie to go to therapy, so I guess Leah's going to go to her family attorney about that. And then Janelle's also going to see an attorney because she has court. So we'll see.
Do you need both parents to sign off on therapy?
Not necessarily. It all depends though too on like who has not just primary physical custody, but who has custody when it comes to medical decisions.
I
And
feel
if
like
they
that's
have it
Leah.
on paper that they share those medical decisions, then they do both have to agree.
Okay. Well, they might share the medical decisions, but I do think Leah has primary custody. I mean, you
Physical.
think Jeremy's never even around. He's always
Right.
working, which is another
Right.
thing. I know Jeremy's bringing in a lot of money, but also you don't get those years back with your kid. So he's basically seeing his kid every once in a while. I'm not saying he's a bad dad. I'm sure when he's with her, he's great with her, but it's like, is working that much truly worth it at the end of the day when your one and only child is now about to be like, what, 12, 13? And you weren't really that much a part of her growing up on a day-to-day basis. I mean, that's all
Yeah.
Leah. So I don't know, just food for thought.
I agree. We'll see.
All right, well, catch you next time, Chick Chat.
All right, Chick
All
Chat.
for
Bye
now.
bye. Thanks for sticking around. See you on the flip side.